continue our lesson last week. Okay, let me share the thing. Okay, last week we talked about IT ethics and privacy and information security, but two main topics that we don't discuss last week is intellectual property right, or IPR, or in Indonesia is hak atas kekayaan intelektual, or IKI, and the code of ethics as a professional in the field of ICT. Okay? Maybe it's just an overview about that topic. So we talked about the ethics and data and information. Without knowledge and wisdom, the data and the information is you have to have knowledge and wisdom to process data information. And then we talk about Undang-Undang ITE. And then we talk about privacy and information security. And I think that you have a sense of privacy and information security when you in the digital world. Okay. So this is the related video about privacy and information security. And I hope that you already watched this video. And how about the intellectual property right? As we discussed in the forum, some of the problem is about intellectual property right. The example that I given to you is about the logo that some of the company use, but that's violating about intellectual property right or copyright about the logo. I think your discussion is very interesting. Some of you talk about this is wrong, and yes, most of you tell in the forum that what they do is wrong because they're violating the intellectual property. Okay. So about protecting our intellectual property, we have to give a license to our content. For example, we have a photo that we share in the internet, or we have a video that we share on the YouTube. When you share something to the internet, you have to include a right in this content. Okay, in that content. One of the license that we could use is called the Creative Commons. This is the logo of the Creative Commons. This is the logo of Creative Commons. Have you seen one of these logo in the internet? Do you ever seen this logo? Have you?
I don't think so, sir.
I have not seen.
Okay. Some of the internet websites, including this logo in their site, but maybe you're not aware about that. This is a Creative Commons that is a license to be embedded in your websites or your content in the internet to protect you from intellectual property fraud. Okay, for example, this is some of the category of the license. The first is this logo. There is a circle and the person in. So when you see this logo, that means that the content is protected by the attribution license. What is the attribution? The attribution is the license that tell when someone using your content, they have to include your name or credit their content to you, something like that. So every time you see this logo in the content and you want to use this logo, their logo, sorry, their content, you have to include their name or the creator name. Okay, that's called the attribution. Maybe not only strictly for their name, maybe your the URL that the content is shared. You could include that information, and maybe their name. You could include their name in your content, something like that. But as long as you have include their name in your content based on the creator content, you could do anything to that content. For example, you could remix the content, and you could adapt the content, and you could you can make your content or their content commercial. For example, you sell their content and many other things that you could think of, as long as you include their name. Okay, that's called the attribution. Okay, could you understand about this?
So sir, if we
Yes, sir.
credit the owner or the creator, we can freely use it.
As long as you yes, when only this attribution license is included. But there is some restriction with other licenses. For example, the non-commercial logo, something like this. When you when they have the creator have this non-commercial logo, you could not commercialize their content, something like that. And this no derivative work, this is the logo. No derivative work is when you have their content, you could not remix, or you could not change, or you could not edit their content. Okay, so that called the no derivative work. So you could use their content as long as you don't change it. Okay, for example, you want to edit the content, you resize the content, or crop the content. You could not do that when this logo is embedded in their content. Okay, and this is the non-commercial license, something like that. So the attribution, when the license in their content only include the attribution, you could do anything, even commercially, as long as you include their name in your new content based on their content. Okay. Could you understand about that? Do you get it?
Yes, sir. I get it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the last license is about a share alike. The share alike is about when you adapt a content from other creator, you have to follow the original license that they has. For example, when they have the attribution logo, and then they have no derivative works, or maybe not non-commercial. Okay, attribution, not commercial, and share alike. That means that you have to include their name. Okay, and then you could remove, remix, or edit their content for your needs. But when their content has the non-commercial license, you could not commercialize your new content. Okay, and your new content, when they have a share alike license, you have to include your content with attribution and non-commercial also, something like that. That's called the share alike. So you have to include the original license to your new content, something like that. Do you get it?
Sir, I have a question. Is that something like inspired by?
Okay, inspired by is maybe that's the attribution license. You could write something like inspired by, or the original image is found in something like that. Okay, that's called the attribution. But the share alike is you have to share the license, not the content. Okay, the same license with your new content. For example, you get a content in the internet, for example, in the Google, free pick, for example, and the license is attribution. So you couldn't commercialize that content because there is a non-commercial license in there. Okay, but when you have the share alike license, that means that when you have the attribution and then commercial and share alike, your new content have to embed the exact same license. For example, you have new content and the original content is attribution, non-commercial, and share alike. Your new content has to include the attribution, non-commercial, and share alike. That's called the share alike license. Do you get it?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so you can mix this license, okay, into something like this. For example, it's attribution only, and then it's attribution with share alike, and then it is attribution and with non-commercial, and so on. Okay, this is the license that you could use in your content. And then one content is called a public domain. The public domain is this content is for the public, and this is the public own the content. For example, when you have do you know drugs? The drugs in Indonesia, we knew a drugs called the obat patented drugs, and then one is the other called obat generic or generic drugs. Do you aware about that?
I know the generic one, sir, but don't know the other one.
Yes, the first is called the obat patent, or that is patented drug. So the obat patent or patented drug is one of the manufacturer of the drug have the license to patent because they have the patent of the drugs. They have the exclusive right to use or to distribute the drug. Okay, but the patent has expired date. When the patent is expired, the drug become public domain. What that means is the ingredients of the drug and the technique to produce the drug is open to public, and everyone could use that drug and produce that drug and distribute that drug. That in Indonesia we call that obat generic. Okay, that's called the public domain because the patent or the license is expired. That become the public domain. That's called the public domain, something like this. Okay, you get it?
Sir.
Yeah.
So every items on the internet has a license, and the license has a expired time. Is that right?
Not all content in the internet has a license. Okay, especially maybe in Indonesia, we not aware about this. Okay, and many content creators not aware about this. Okay, Are these have a expiration date? It's not. I think I don't think so. The Creative Commons has a expiration date. That's about the drug is just an example to inform you about the public domain. The public domain is the content that you want to share to anyone without a license. That's called the public domain. Okay, you could do anything, and it's free for everyone, something like that. That's called the public domain. Maybe most of the internet content is public domain because we don't include a license to our content. But when you upload your content to, for example, to Instagram or to FreePic or to YouTube, something like that, they has a license in their information system directly. For example, when we search about Bali, okay, we search about Bali in the, okay, maybe because I'm using traffic light, okay, and in Google we have a Google image right here, and then we choose one of the example here. For example, maybe in Wikipedia, wiki. Okay. So, example, this image in Wikipedia. Okay, we open this, and then we see this. The image may subject to copyright. Okay. So, the Google say that this image may have a copyright in here. So when we open the image, we will go to Wikipedia and we find the image. For example, maybe this image be this, and we click the image. We can have see the license here. For example, this license. Okay. CC by SA. Okay. This CC is called the Creative Commons license, and by is attribution, and SA is share alike. So you have to in this image they embed the attribution and share alike. So when you have the attribution and share alike, you could remix this or edit this picture, okay, or the image, and even you could commercialize this image because there is no restriction about the non-commercial license. So this is one example of how we could use the Creative Commons in our content. Okay, maybe in YouTube, for example, we open YouTube and then we find some content here. For example, this. And
excuse
then,
me, sir.
sorry.
The content is not showing up yet, sir.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So in the Wikipedia page, you don't see it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a Wikipedia page. Okay, one of the Wikipedia page, and then when you want to use this image, one of the image in the Wikipedia, for example, you could open this, and then you can see the license here. Okay. In other websites, you could find the license maybe in the bottom of the page or something like that. Okay. So this called the CC or the Creative Commons, and then by its attribution, and SA is share alike. But there is no derivative works and non-commercial license here. So you could download this image and you remix the image, and even you can commercialize your image, your new content. But you have to have attribution to the website or the creator of the image, something like that. Okay. Do you get it? So,
Yes.
for example, in YouTube, something like this, okay? They have a license, I think, show more, and then you could see the license. I don't know. This is weird. Maybe only this license because the, for example, this. I don't know what video is this. I can, okay. You can see this license to YouTube, okay? This is a license, YouTube license, okay? The YouTube has a license and you have to know what is the license, YouTube license is, okay? When you share your content or you want to download a video from the YouTube, okay? But YouTube itself has a Creative Commons license that could be embedded to your video. Maybe we could try to Creative Commons, for example, Creative Commons video on YouTube, or for example, maybe this. I don't know.
Welcome to my channel Viral Bugis.
And we see the license here. Okay, why some of the video there is no license in the video? I don't get it. Okay, Creative Commons. Why you only from Indonesia? I don't want to see the content from Indonesia. Okay. Okay, something like this. The license is Creative Commons Attribution License. Okay, so most of the popular social media sites has a license, and some of them includes the Creative Commons license for you. Okay, for example, the free pick, I think they call the free pick. Okay, free pick. They have, I think they have their own license for the image. So we could see this. This is the license, prefix license. Okay, and we could see what is the license about this. And for commercial is okay. Okay. On digital printed media is okay. Unlimited number of times is okay, and whatever you could modify this license, something like that. But I think you have to have the attribution to the image that you have, okay? Something like that. So it is very important for us to know that every content in this world, okay, have someone that someone on the, everything in this internet. Okay, imagine that you have a good content, and then if someone use your content to commercially, okay, to use for commercial purpose, and then you don't getting anything for that. What your response about that?
Angry.
Yes, of course you will be angry. Okay? So maybe you have to start with yourself first. So when you are using the content from the internet, do the same thing. Okay. Find the license that embed to the content, and then you could do whatever you want, as long as you don't violate the license, something like that. Okay, do that to yourself first, and expect other people do the same. Okay, you get it?
Can
Yes,
I
sir.
ask, sir?
Okay. Mm,
How
yeah.
about the license in open source software like GNU public license or GPL or Linux maybe?
You could, if you're interested, why don't you read the license? This is interesting.
I cannot access the link. I don't know, but I
Okay.
have
GNU
coba.
license.
Tapi nggak bisa, Pak.
Okay, the GNU license. Maybe in Wikipedia you could have anything here. The GNU has three licenses: version 1, version 2, and version 3. I think the Linux using the version 2. And the version 2 license is here. Okay. The license is very long, so I think you have to uh, read it yourself. Okay, we could not read this one by one here. So this is the license, but maybe for copy paste, you may not copy, modify, sub-license, and distribute the program except as expressly provided under this license. Okay, so it's maybe the same like the share alike license in Creative Commons. So you have to provide the license in your new program or your new open source program in your new program. Okay, this maybe it's very similar to share alike license in Creative Commons, and you are not required to accept this license since you have not signed it. Something like that. Okay, you could if you if the distribution or the use of program is restricted in certain countries, either by patent or by copyright. The original copyright hold who plays the I don't understand about that. Okay. But you could read this license so you maybe more aware or more understand about the license. Okay. Any question?
No, Mr.
Okay. What don't you understand? Because you don't read it or what? Maybe you have to read it first. You may modify your copy or copies of program or any portion of it, thus forming a work based of the program, and copy and distribute such modification or work under the term section 1, provide that you also meet all these conditions. You must cause the modification file to carry prominent notice stating that you changed the files and date of the change. You must cause any word that you distribute or publish that in the whole part of the card contains or derived from the program to be licensed as the whole. No charge to all third parties under the term of license. Okay, no charge. It's non-commercial, and so on. Okay, you have to read this because I don't have any knowledge about this actually, but all I know that when you using the GNU license, it is non-commercial and it's open source. You could distribute or you could modify the source code for your needs, but you have to include the same license to your new content, just like the share alike license in Creative Commons. That's what's my understanding about the license. Okay. Any question? Any question?
I think no, Mr.
Okay, that's about the Creative Commons and their license. Okay, what I'm the objective of this lesson is about to you to understand, for you to understand that the content in the internet is not freely, not always freely to you to use. Okay, so you have to see the license and what could I do in this content, and you could do anything as long as you don't violate the license, something like that. Okay. So we go to the next lessons. Okay, it's about the code of ethics in IT. When we are a professional in the IT field, there is a code of ethics in our professional life in IT. Okay, so this is two reference about the ethics. The first is the ACM Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct by the ACM. Okay, and then IEEECS / ACM Joint Task Force about the Software Engineering Code of Ethics by the IEEE. These two company is the company that standardize the IT concept and the IT product and the IT license, something like that, by the ACM and IEEE. Do you aware about the IEEE 805.11? Do you aware of 805.11A or 805.11B, G, N, AC? Do you familiar with it?
Maybe it's a Wi-Fi connection, sir.
Okay, Agung Ade Wahyu. Agung Ade Wahyu, what is it?
It's like in Wi-Fi connection.
Yes, when you see this, it's referred to the Wi-Fi standard. Okay, there is a standard called the 805.11a, B, G, and AC, and then the Wi-Fi 6. We call that AX. Okay, the new standard about the Wi-Fi. We call that the Wi-Fi 6. But the standard called the 805.11ax, I think. Okay, and then the new standard, I think the AZ standard, but it's not commercialized yet. This standards is standardized by the IEEE. Okay, so these two company is a joint company that standardize things in IT world. Okay, IT and engineering actually, and it's not only in IT but engineering too. So we could refer the code of ethics from this different company. So some of the general ethics of these two code of ethics is you have to contribute to for the public interest when when you are using the IT technology or you developing a new IT technology. You have to think that this is for public interest. Okay, and when you are using the technology, you have to avoid the discrimination. You have to fair to any other races or religion, something like that. So you have to be fair and avoid the discrimination, and so on. For example, you have to appreciate the people ideas, work and technological invention, something like that. And then respect any privacy, confidentiality, and data and information, and always learn and participate accordance to with their professional duties and responsibilities. Okay, that's the general ethics of professional in ICT field. And then some of the specific ethics is called the professional responsibility and then management and leadership responsibility. Okay, for example, in professional responsibility, you have to strive at designing a technology as safe as possible and as reliable and as possible, and you have to design the technology with a high quality standard, something like that. Okay, and you have to work within your scope of competence. So when you are a programmer, you could not act as a data engineer, for example. And when you are a tester, you could not act as a programmer, something like that. Okay, because when we are do something professionally, you have to work only within your scope of competence. Okay, that's why the competency is very important. Okay, you could not tell yourself that I could do anything in the IT world. That's so arrogant, I think. Okay, you have to state yourself or state in your professional world that what I do is this. Okay, I am competent in this area, and I don't have any competency in that area, something like that. Okay? You have to you have to have a scope of your competency. Okay, and there is many other professional responsibility. For example, when you are using the computer system, you have to use that computer system as appropriate authorization that given to you. For example, when you are a student and you are accessing the e-learning, for example, act yourself as a student. Don't hack or do hacking to the information system, something like that, because you don't authorize to do something, to do that. Okay. The good example is about when you are database administration, for example, you are database administrator. When you are the database administrator, naturally you could access all the data in your database, okay, on your organization database. But you don't have a right to change their database or change the data within the database. Okay, you could do that, but you're not allowed to do that. Okay, that's called the appropriate authorization. Because you don't have the authorization to change the data, you could you cannot do that because you don't have authorization. Okay, that's one example of the appropriate authorization when you are using the IT technology. Okay, and strive for public understanding and understanding about the information system. For example, this lessons is about the IT ethics. And when you are in the public, okay, when you are with your family or with your friends, something like that, try to make them understand about the IT in the right way with the IT ethics, for example. Okay, tell them about data privacy, or tell them about the information security, something like that. Okay, because that's your responsibility to as a IT professional to inform the public about that ethics in the IT. Okay, cultivate the culture of sharing and mutual support among professionals and in the ICT field. Sharing is good. Okay, for example, in the open source community, the sharing is the core of the compulsory community, something like that. Do you have any question about the professional responsibility as an IT professional? Okay, the last one is about management and leadership responsibility in the IT field. Okay, the first is create opportunities for workers to be able to develop as professional in the ICT world. You have to open the opportunity to your worker, for example. For example, you give them a chance to develop themselves, what they like, or give them a personal project for themselves, something like that. If you're aware, when you work in Google, for example, and when you work in Microsoft, something like that, they give the worker a personal project for themselves. For example, I want to make a robot to do something like that, yeah, to do something that I want. They let them to do that as a personal project, something like that. I think that's in Indonesia, that culture is not common in many company in Indonesia, but I think in big IT company like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, doing that to their worker, because they want to create the opportunities for their worker to develop themselves, something like that. Okay, that's the management of the responsibilities as leadership in IT field. Create a professional culture by applying an ethical and accountable approach, and get to know how the system works. This one is very important. The system is about the regulation. When you are designing a system, information system or technology within in the ICT world, you have to compliance with the regulation. For example, in Indonesia is Undang-Undang ITE. Maybe in Europe is about the data privacy and something like that. You have to have a compliance about the regulation. Okay, when you're designing the IT technology. Okay? Ensure the public interest is a primary concern in managing all work in ICT field. This all our work is for public interest. That's that you have to internalize in your self. Okay. Okay. Do you have any question about it?
I don't
So,
think so, sir.
okay. So in ICT world, it's not simple. Many things that we have to aware of. For example, the privacy, and then the ethics, and some of the license, something like that. Okay. And I hope that in this lesson you could aware about that, and you internalize this lesson to yourself. Okay. For example, when you are using a content, you have to see the license of the content, for example. And when you are have access to some information technology, you have to aware that they do I have authorization to access data, or do I have authorization to change the content of the database, something like that. You have to know about the authorization, something like that. Okay? So that's why the IT ethics is very important, especially in you as an IT student, that you will become a IT professional in the future. Okay? So I hope that you could internalize this lesson to yourself. Okay? So this is about the IT ethics, but do you have a question about the whole lesson from the ethics, privacy, information security, IPR, and the ethics. Do you have any question? If not, we are going to the next lesson. Okay, we'll go to the next lessons is about the emergence technology. So we will discuss about emerging technologies and the trend. What is the trend in the IT field? Okay, we will talk about the Gartner hype cycle. Do you familiar with Gartner?
No, Mr.
Okay. Gartner is a company that their main operation is about survey and about predicting what is the business opportunity in the future. Okay, some of the operation is about the predicting what is the emerging technologies that will happen in the future. The tools that they use is called the hype cycle. This is the graph of or the image of the hype cycle. The y-axis is about the expectation. What is the expectation is when the technology is developing or the technology is invented, what is the expectation of the technology to be used by the public? Okay, the public interest. That's called the expectation. And then the x-axis is about the time. Over time, what expectation will become? Something like that. Okay, this is just a prediction. For example, this there are 5 categories in this hype cycle. The first is innovation trigger. This means the innovation is triggered or the innovation is invented. Okay? For example, the technology, the new technology is invented. That's called the innovation trigger. Okay. The second is the peak of inflated of expectation. This is the this means is when is the technology is in the peak of their popularity. Okay, that's called the peak of inflated expectation, because we have a very high expectation or very high hype about the technology. Usually, they have a peak of the expectation, but over time, the expectation will be lower and lower, and that's called the true of disillusionment. Okay, the technology doesn't always success. Okay, some of the technology is gone, is disappearing in our world. So in this concept or this hype cycle, they knew that after the peak of the expectation, the next phase is the expectation is decline. Okay, or the technology maybe will be used for a long time, or maybe they will be disappear in our life, something like that. Okay, and then when they survive in this slope, okay, they will be go through the slope of enlightenment and plateau of productivity. These two expectation these two category mean that the technology is become generic in our life. Okay, become widely used by our society, something like that. That called the plateau of productivity. And sometimes when we when the technology is here, public is using their technology day to day, okay, in their daily life, something like that. Okay, that's called the success. When the technology is here, That's mean the technology is success, something like that. Okay, this is called the hype cycle. Okay, when you are using a technology or inventing the technology, or you want to know about the future technology that will be trend in several years, you could see the hype cycle, this hype cycle. There is technology here, the many kind of technology here, and then this is the plateau of will be reached. For example, the brown one is less than 2 years. They expect the technology only survive in less than 2 years, something like that. Okay, and the blue, the light blue one is 2 to 5 years will be hype, or maybe they will be a success or not in 2 or 5 years. And the dark blue is 5 to 10 years, and the yellow is more than 10 years. Okay, so we could see this technology, where is the position of this technology in respected year. Okay, for example, this hype cycle in 2018, we could see this, the 5G technology. When you remember that 5G technology will introduce in 2018. Okay, many people started to talk about the 5G technology in 2015. 2018. Okay, and there is some of the technologies here. For example, the edge AI and something, maybe many other technology. Okay, so for example, this about the mixed reality is declined in 2018. You know what mixed reality is?
No, sir.
Do you
Melakukan
know?
diri dari kenyataan.
Do you know artificial intelligence? Augmented reality. You know, AR.
Yes, I know, sir.
Yeah.
You know virtual reality, VR.
Yes, VR.
VR.
No.
The mix of that two technology called the mixed reality. The product. Do you know the product about the mixed reality?
Game use VR
No,
or
that's called
Augmented reality is like Pokemon Go.
no. Pokemon Go is virtual reality. Oh, sorry. Maybe that's the Pokemon Go is augmented reality.
Yeah, augmented reality.
Yes. In 2018, the augmented reality is declining, and they are in their very low expectation here. But I think the augmented reality is already hit now. That to productivity into 2021. Okay. The mixed reality example is the Microsoft HoloLens. Do you know HoloLens?
That I think that's like prototype from Google.
That's HoloLens. HoloLens. This.
Prototype to be.
Yes, this called the mixed reality devices. Okay, they combine the virtual reality and augmented reality into one. That called the mixed reality. Okay, when you see in the hype cycle, the mixed reality is declining in 2018. But I think the mixed reality now, maybe we rarely heard about the mixed reality today. Okay, because this is declining in 2018. But I think the mixed reality survived in the medical treatment and medical technology today, but it's not widely used by the public. Okay, the augmented reality is declining in 2018, but I think it will be it is in the category of plateau of productivity now. Some of the technology is disappearing. Okay, I don't know what is disappearing here. For example, the blockchain. The blockchain is not disappearing now, but in 2018 is declining. And in 2020, we rarely heard about the blockchain, but it survived. The blockchain is survived. For example, the Ethereum, the Bitcoin, something like that. It survived. It survived the declining. Okay. This is for 2018, and then how about in 2019? Hype cycle, 2019. In 2019, we could see that the 5G is in the peak. Okay. When we compare to 2018, the 5G is in the innovation trigger category. And then we could see this in the 2019, the 5G is in the peak of expectation. Okay. When you remember in 2019, the 5G technology is very hype. I remember when I have a training in Korea, they have a laboratory, or the big laboratory or factory, a learning factory that using the 5G technology. And I don't know what they use in, what they do in their the 5G technology in the factory. I don't understand about that. But when in the 2019, the 5G technology is in the peak. Okay, we knew that many company and many government, many people talk about the 5G technology in that year. One of the interesting about the 5G cases in the world in 2019, do you know about that? There is something happened in 2019 about the 5G. Do you know, or do you aware, or do you remember? Yes, maybe some people tell us about the 5G is harm to our body, something like that, that will be transmit high frequency signal to our brain, something like that. Okay. And then the famous one is about the Huawei and the US government. You aware about that?
Oh yeah, I know about that, sir.
Yes. What is it about?
I think like Huawei don't want to use Google or for.
I don't think the Huawei don't want to use Google, but Google is restricted to provide Huawei Google services by the US government.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that happened because the 5G races in these two big countries, the Chinese and the USA. Okay, I think that is happening in 2019. Then until now, the Huawei product could not use the technology from US. For example, the chip technology, microchip technology, and then the Google Play services and many services that could not provided by to the Huawei. Okay, that's because the 5G technology, and then many other technology that you could see here. For example, the Edge AI. For example, here the Edge AI is here, and then in 2019 is here. Okay, and then a new technology emerged. For example, AR cloud and many other technology. You could see here when you will be writing your thesis. in the several years, for example, you want to make a project about the technology, you could see the Gartner. And then how about in 2020? We see in the 2020 emerging technology here. The Gartner is not only the emerging technology, something like AI technology and then the business technology and so on. Okay, so we see in 2020 what is interesting here. Could you see here what is interesting in 2020 here?
The social distancing technology, sir.
Yeah. Why the technology is peaking in 2020?
Corona.
Because the corona
Because of the
pandemic.
coronavirus, sir.
Yes,
Pandemic.
because the coronavirus, the social distancing technology is in the peak in 2020. But I think in 2021, maybe some of the technology is we already use. What the technology or the application that we use today based on the social distancing technology in Indonesia especially?
Peduli Lindungi.
Yes, the Peduli Lindungi apps. Okay. That happened in 2020 because the 2020 started the pandemic, and then the social distancing technology is very important at that time. And we could see in this social distancing technology is only the expectation is only less than 2 years. Could you analyze why the social distancing technology only the expectation is only for 2 years? Why? Why not 5 years? Why not 10 years? Why only 2 years by Gartner? Why they expect the social distancing technology only lasts for 2 years? Why?
Because it needed as soon as possible.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think it is important for the public to implement it so that we can be safe.
Okay. Why only 2 years? Why not 5 years? The technology is this indicate that we expect the technology only will be used for 2 years, something like that. Okay. Why?
I think
Karena
I think because if we as a human know about the social distancing and about social distancing technology is not use. Jadi kayak kalau udah manusia itu udah ngerti tentang social distancing, jadi nggak perlu lagi pakai teknologi itu.
Okay, I think that this technology is in the pandemic we will use often Peduli Lindungi, for example. Okay, but I think that's the valid argument. Maybe some other student.
karena tujuan atau fokus para pengembang teknologi mungkin akan tertuju kepada social distancing teknologi karena kan sekarang lebih sering digunakan oleh masyarakat umum.
No. Why 2 years? Why not 5 years?
Maybe because we predict that the pandemic can be over in a short time, so that the public can be more usual to social distancing.
Yes, I think that's the reason, because maybe the Gartner predict the pandemic only lasts for 2 years, but I don't think so. Okay, the pandemic will be last longer than 2 years, but the Gartner I think predict that the pandemic will be last less than 2 years. Okay, but in reality, I don't think so. That's one example that the prediction is not always spot on. Okay, that's called the prediction. The prediction is not always right. Maybe the prediction is wrong, something like that. Okay. So when you see the hype cycle, you have to analyze any further, okay, to the emerging technology, because not all the technology will survive, or not all the prediction will be happen in the future, something like that. Okay, so it is very very interesting, because the social distance technology is in the peak of the expectation in 2020. And one of the technology is about the health passport. I think we are using this health passport now. For example, when I'm going to Bandung several weeks ago, when I land to Bandung in the airport, I have to make an itinerary, or make notes to where I want to go, when I want to leave the Bandung, something like that. Okay, I think that's called the health passport. And then when I'm have a swab test, and in the Peduli Lindungi apps automatically have the status of my test in the Peduli Lindungi automatically, something like that. That's called the health passport. But some of the technology in 2020 is about an artificial intelligence and machine learning. When you see in here, many technology about AI is emerging. Okay, and many technology is AI back. Okay, the back end of the technology is AI. For example, the DNA computation is code storage, AI assist design, responsible AI, and something like that. Okay, so you could see here this hype cycle to know about what will be happening in the next few years in technology. Okay, how about in 20 and 21? Okay. 2021. Jangan. This is happening in 2021. Okay, they predict something like this. The AI, I think, is still dominating in 2021, and the cloud, sovereign cloud, and then a real-time incident center, AAS. You know what AAS is? What is AAS? AAS, some of it's about IaaS, and then PaaS, PaaS, and then SaaS. Do you familiar with this? IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS? You familiar with it?
No.
No, sir.
This is a term of a cloud computing. Okay, cloud computing. The first is IaaS, or infrastructure as a service. So when you talk about cloud computing, the cloud computing is the resources in the internet. Okay, and we could have hardware, a virtual hardware as a service. So we have to pay as long as we using the hardware. That's called the infrastructure as a service. Okay, there is a networking, a storage, something like that. And then the second is called the platform as a service, or PaaS. And the third is called SaaS, or software as a service. The example of software as a service is like a Google Drive, okay, Google Play Store, something like that. That's called the software as a service. But platform as a service is, for example, you are needed database services in the cloud, you could use that services that called that platform as a service. Okay. Do you interested in cloud technology? Who is interested in cloud technology here?
What is cloud technology?
Yes, you have to see it yourself, okay, about that. I don't want to talk about cloud technology or cloud computing. I think we have already discussed it a little bit in the beginning of the semester, but you have to know yourself what is cloud computing. I don't want to explain everything to you. Okay, find yourself. But I think most of you or some of you knew about the cloud computing, right?
Yeah.
Do you interested in cloud technology?
So for me, because I just a little know, and I just a little interested about that.
Okay,
Something.
maybe I will switch in bahasa now. Okay. Kenapa saya bertanya seperti ini? Kenapa kalian tertarik dengan? Apakah kalian tertarik dengan cloud technology atau tidak? Karena dari fakultas itu sedang menyediakan kesempatan untuk mahasiswa untuk mengikuti sertifikasi, pelatihan dan sertifikasi tentang teknologi cloud, ya. Dan kita sudah mendapatkan beberapa tiket untuk dapat sertifikasi dari Microsoft. Jadi ada yang disebut dengan Microsoft Azure, okay. Microsoft Azure. Jadi di situ ada pelatihannya dan sertifikasinya terkait dengan cloud computing-nya si Microsoft Azure. Nah, saya ingin bertanya sebenarnya kepada mahasiswa semester 1 ya, karena kan sebenarnya ini ditujukan untuk semester yang lebih tinggi daripada semester 1 gitu ya. Dimulai dari semester 3 sampai semester 7 sebenarnya. Hanya saja saya ingin membuka peluang aja kepada kalian. Apakah kalian tertarik dengan itu? Gitu. Apakah kalian tertarik untuk mengetahui cloud teknologi atau teknologi cloud, khususnya Azure, gitu ya? Tertarik nggak kalian?
Kalau untuk saya pribadi, Pak, saya tertarik, Pak.
Tertarik?
Mungkin
Mungkin di chat
terdapat
ya.
kesempatan seperti itu sih, mungkin tertarik sekali ya, Pak.
Nah, coba di chat gitu ya. Tertarik, siapa yang tertarik biar saya tahu berapa orang sih yang tertarik gitu. Di chat aja di gini ya. Siapa yang tertarik? Coba saya gitu. Oke, lumayan banyak ya. Jadi saya nggak tahu. Coba kita lihat ini platform service aja ya. Jadi di cloud itu, di Azure nanti banyak servisnya ya, atau layanannya itu banyak. Jadi contohnya adalah seperti ini. Jadi Microsoft Azure itu banyak layanannya. Jadi contohnya adalah compute atau perhitungan ini ya, computing, lalu ada data services, lalu network services, lalu on-premise cloud seperti misalnya Microsoft 365 gitu ya. Lalu dan banyak hal gitu ya. Nah, di pelatihan itu dan di pelatihan di sertifikasi itu nanti kalian akan diajarkan terkait dengan konsep dasar teknologi cloud, ya, cloud computing technology. Nah, setelah itu dari situ kalian akan dikenalkan juga dari service-service yang dimiliki oleh si Azure, gitu ya. Contohnya compute service-nya seperti apa sih, storage service-nya seperti apa sih, network service-nya seperti apa sih, gitu ya. Nah, kalau kalian tertarik, saya akan diskusikan dulu dengan rekan-rekan yang lain ya, atau dosen-dosen yang lain. Apakah mahasiswa semester 1 sudah mumpuni nggak untuk ikut itu? Tapi saya kira sih kalau untuk trainingnya kalian boleh ikut gitu ya, ikut aja gitu. Tetapi sertifikasinya yang akan saya gini kan, karena kalau sertifikasi itu kan kayak tes ya. ujian lah gitu. Ujian sertifikasi, habis itu nanti ada nilainya, kalian lulus atau tidak gitu ya. Passing grade-nya 70. Jadi kalau kalian 700 dari 1000 gitu ya. Kalau kalian dapat 700, kalian akan mendapatkan sertifikasi dari Microsoft. Dan ini bukan sertifikat pelatihan, bukan sertifikat itu, tapi ini sertifikat profesional. Jadi kalian akan mendapatkan yang disebut dengan sertifikasi ya, bukan hanya sertifikat biasa. Sertifikat kompetensi bahwa kalian sudah dapat menggunakan Microsoft Cloud ya, si Microsoft itu ya. Dalam hal ini disebut dengan Microsoft Azure. Seperti itu. Nah, saya akan coba diskusikan dulu dengan teman-teman apakah kalian ini berhak atau tidak. Tapi mungkin nanti akan saya buka sebuah pendaftaran ya. Kalian kan masih ada di grup 2021 itu kan ya? Ilkom 2021 masih kan ya? Nggak bisa kan ya? Ya nanti mungkin langsung aja di situ. Intinya adalah nanti akan saya kenalkan. Lalu di situ saya memilihnya dengan melihat apa sih alasan kalian ingin mengetahui itu. Nanti akan saya buat di formnya itu apa alasan kalian ingin mengikuti ini. Jadi kalian tulis itu dengan baik gitu ya. Jangan nulisnya saya ingin tahu saja Pak, yang nggak akan saya terima gitu ya. Kenapa gitu? Kenapa kalian ingin tahu itu dengan spesifik ya? Itu mungkin akan saya tuliskan nanti atau saya buat nanti di sebuah Google Form ya. Tapi saya diskusikan dulu dengan rekan-rekan dosen yang lain. Apakah semester 1 diizinkan atau tidak gitu ya. Nah, sekarang saya sudah sebarkan ke semester 3, 4, dan 5 ya. Tapi sih saya berharap sebenarnya kalian juga ada yang ikut gitu ya. Meskipun nggak semua, nggak apa-apa gitu. Dan ini kuotanya terbatas sih, terbatas. Jadi nanti akan benar-benar dipilih siapa yang benar-benar boleh ikut gitu ya. Itu akan dipilih karena nanti ada tesnya, sertifikasi. Rugi aja sih kalau kalian ikut sertifikasi tapi tidak serius gitu umpamanya ya, sehingga nanti nggak lulus gitu ya. Kalau sertifikasinya itu sebenarnya kalau kalian ikut sertifikasi seperti di Surabaya ya, ada lokasi sertifikasinya Surabaya itu harganya bisa sampai 2 jutaan untuk mengikuti pelatihan dan sertifikasinya, cukup mahal. Tetapi kalau kita di kampus ini ya, karena kita sudah kerjasama, kalian dapat gratis itu nanti. Jadi udah fakultas yang bayarin ya. Jadi makanya saya masih berpikir apakah kalian cocok atau tidak. Dan coba yakinkan nanti kami gitu ya. Yakinkan kami bahwa kalian memang cocok untuk mengikuti itu. Oke, di Google Form itu. Oke, tertarik kalian? Nggak perlu lihat di sini 20 orang. Tertarik ya. Nah, sebenarnya nggak masalah ya. Kalau umpamanya nggak sekarang, mungkin tahun depan akan ada lagi. Jadi jangan gini lah ya. Pengalaman saya mengikuti sertifikasinya itu banyak terkait dengan konsep-konsep cloud computing gitu ya. Lalu konsep-konsep terkait dengan bagaimana sih kita membawakan cloud computing gitu. Umpamanya ada masalah ini, masalah A. Saya harus pakai apa gitu ya? Harus pakai apa? Service yang mana yang harus saya gunakan untuk menyelesaikan masalah itu gitu umpamanya. Jadi contohnya saya punya server di kampus gitu ya. Saya punya server di perusahaan saya. Lalu server itu ingin saya pindahkan datanya saja, saya pindahkan ke cloud gitu. Apa yang harus dilakukan? Kayak itulah soal-soalnya, soal-soal sertifikasi. Dan nanti di pelatihannya itu akan dikenalkan konsep-konsep dasarnya saja sebenarnya. Tetapi yang harus kalian lakukan adalah kalian belajar sendiri gitu ya. Belajar sendiri terkait dengan cloud computing. Soal-soalnya sudah ada. Saya sudah punya soal-soalnya yang keluar dari di sertifikasi itu ya. Dan pengalaman saya dari soal-soal itu 80% keluar sama persis gitu ya. Sama persis loh gitu. Cuma kan nggak tahu, soalnya si Microsoft kan dia akan mengupdate gininya soal-soalnya terus kan ya. Kalau kemarin sama persis, sekarang saya nggak tahu. Tetapi kan paling tidak dengan menggunakan soal-soal itu kalian bisa belajar lebih baik gitu ya. Nah soal-soalnya itu ada sekitar banyak lah, sekitar 100-an. Cuma pada saat sertifikasinya itu saya kira cuma berapa ya, 40 atau 60 soal, itu nggak banyak kok gitu ya. Jadi semoga kalian kalau umpamanya eligible gitu ya, kalian bisa lulus di situ dan kalian dapatkan sertifikasi dari Microsoft. Nah, itu bagus sekali. Okay. So this is about the hype cycle. Okay, I think that you have to aware about the technology that will be happening in the next few years when you see the hype cycle. Okay, and your assignment is in this emerging technology in 2020, you have to choose one of these technology, and you have to create a slide, a PowerPoint slide that explain about that technology. Okay, that's your assignment. And next week, I will ask some of you to present your words about this. Okay, you have to choose one of these, and then you find the information about it, and then write or create a slide about that technology. Okay, do you have any question?
Gartner tahun berapa, Pak, tadi?
2021.
Okay.
Okay, you have to write it in English. Okay, not in Indonesia. Okay. Okay, do you have any question? Other question?
So, sir.
Yes.
So we need to explain one of emerging technologies.
Yes. Yes, you choose one of the technology here, and you have to explain in the slide.
Explain.
Yes, you have to explain in the slide. I think you only need 3 to 5 slides to explain that, because you don't need to explain the technology very detailed. Okay, all I want is you aware about this technology and you knew about the technology. You don't have to have a deep understanding about the technology. I just want you to read about this, okay? And you write it in or create it a PowerPoint slide, and you have to explain what you have learned about the technology. Okay, you could explain or create a PowerPoint slide with a different point of view. Okay, you could see that about the description, about the technology that support the technology, and so on. Okay, read it what you learned about it. Okay, okay, any question? Okay, if not, thank you for this lesson. I think we have to end this lesson today. Thank you for your attendance here. Don't forget to create a attendance list, okay, or fill the attendance list. Okay, thank you everyone, and I close this meeting with Paramasanti. Om Santi 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 Om. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.